Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to The Real Heroes Show. Nick here with you. And in this episode, we're going to be diving into C on Apple TV Plus, Season 2, Episode 5. We're just going to dive right in here, not going to keep you wasting time. So Queen Kane has called a council of sorts to see how many soldiers have pledged to fight for her, so she gets some numbers. And, really, it's just sort of this idea of as to which parts of, the Pyans are loyal to her. And as we kind of hear later on from Magra, everyone seems to be, that's a soldier rather, is loyal to Lord Harlan first and Queen Kane second. More on that later. But I think, again, it's sort of a public-facing thing that Queen Kane is trying to do here to, exert her dominance and her loyalty as queen. And then we get a plan from Magra to Sibith, and to try and get the Travantians to ask for a parley. Which we hear at the dinner conversation from Baba Voss that says, the Travantians will never, ever parlay to them. So it's going to be like a fool's errand, a fool's hope, essentially is what this is sort of leading to. Although I do like a line that Magra says, win the war without having to fight the battle. Which I think that's what any sort of, leader or, general, someone in command would want to do, just to lessen the amount of casualties or to not have any casualties, period. But for Sibith to be the emissary for the Pyans, to me, I just got a bad feeling about this. Not to quote Star Wars, but it's just one of those things where this doesn't seem like it's going to go well. And I would really hate for it to sort of end in the result where Magra dies. Although I don't think that's going to happen based on what happens at the end of this episode. I think the catch is asking for an apology and the reparations for Kanzua from what Sibith proposes. And again, it's like that'll never happen. And I almost think that just war is inevitable. We get a little bit more of the Kofun-Toad relationship, or friendship rather. And even though Kofun is sighted, Toad is just, an experienced soldier, fighting without vision. And, as Kofun tries to take a swing at him, Toad's like, listen here, son, your eyes mean nothing to me. Which, again, I feel like most of the points in the beginning of this episode were basically answered in the last half of the second half of this episode, which was kind of cool to see, because we see that Kofun wants Toad to train him. Toad says no, but Kofun says, well, I'll get it I'll get the authorization from my mother, which he doesn't, even though Toad will be the one to protect and inevitably train him. We get a slight cutscene into the Travantians, where we see Ren speaking with Ito, and Ito is preparing, the new weaponry, gives a special sword to Ren, and he says, the peace talks will fail, and they'll fail intentionally. And so again, we get that little scene, knowing what Ito Voss is saying, and then we know what the Pyans are trying to do with what Queen Kane and Princess Magra's plans are, the talks, and it's like you just know something bad's going to happen. And we're in episode 5, so we got 3 more episodes in this season. So I think we're probably going to get some bloody battles, some bloody scenes, and I'm not too sure how long this proposed war may potentially last. Maybe an episode or 2. I would maybe say at least, it's safe to say, episode 8, the finale of the season, will probably do that. And they'll probably skip time and say the war is ended, the war is gone on, war is continuing going into season 3, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? I like the scene where Toad's taking a piss, and at night, and Tamakta Jun kind of comes up and whispers to him, and he's like, oh, well, it sounds like the voice of a dead man, and then he says, I'm only dead on the inside. And again, just kind of seeing that loyalty, where Toad is loyal to Tamakti. And again, more on that later, as far as loyalty goes, and this other plan that's being devised more than one plan is being devised by Princess Magra. One of the best scenes of this entire episode was the dinner with the family, I guess, right? We've got the princess, we've got the queen, we've got Kofun, we've got Hanawa, we've got Baba, we've got Harlan, and it is just very dramatic, very awkward. The whole thing about the war, being on the battlefield, beating the Travantians in the battlefield, Baba Voss being insulted, the love affair that's taking place between him, having two husbands, and again, Magra being an emissary just won't bode well. And Baba Voss is kind of pissed off, right? And who would blame him? I would be pissed off too if I were in his shoes. Coming to this and just I'll say something a little bit later on in this video here, but he kind of just is done with his dinner and kind of flips his plate and walks out. And again, I think that was the intention behind Queen Kane. Queen Kane just wants to get under Baba Voss's skin, just to play him against her sister, and probably a couple other things as well that might send him in a different direction. And then again, we get the scene that takes place right after that, where Baba Voss is in, Princess Magra's quarters, and Harlan comes up and knocks on the door, and again, very awkward. But Baba Voss sees what Harlan's trying to do, and he says that, Harlan is trying to make you, talking to his wife, his tool. And she says, no, I'm making him my tool. And I'm like, there's a lot of tools being thrown around here. And we'll see what actually ends up happening, because someone is going to be made a fool and a tool. And I think because of the so much like deception and like the deviousness that's taking place within this own city, within the Pyans, it's just not going to bode well. When Baba Voss stands up and he's right behind Harlan, I'm like, he is about to just break his neck and be like, I don't know what happened, he fell, but he doesn't. I do think that Baba Voss is going to kill Harlan, but not yet, because he does say later on that we all know that Harlan is a valuable asset, and that's all he is. That Magra had, there's a bit of an emotional part where Magra feels all the lacerations, the deep wounds and the scars in Baba Voss's back, and what he went through. Right, he did this for their daughter, and I think a very powerful line that which I think we've seen a lot of movies and shows, and we probably even see this in our daily lives, where it's like, I would die for my kid and stuff like that. But he's like, which is what Magra says to Baba, but Baba is like, no, I don't want you to die. I want you to live. And I think that was a very powerful thing to say. Like, it's like, yeah, I would die for someone. It's like, that's great, but live for them and do something for them instead. That's also, equally as powerful. And another, slight good conversation when we get the second half of the Kofun Toad thing, where, Paris is, kind of creeping through the hallway, and she hears Harmony talk about what the queen is doing with the witches being in the royal family, and it sounds pretty treacherous. Some slight treason possibly at stake here. And then Toad kind of sees her, or rather hears her, and they have a little bit of a conversation. And again, we get the connection that, or rather the connection and effect that Paris had on Toad going to last season in the forest. And it's because of that connection and what Paris did for Toad that he says he'll protect and obviously train Kofun for her. Not even for the queen, or even princess rather, but for Paris. And then I thought it was kind of funny when Paris was like, Toad, that's a dumb name or a stupid name. And I'm like, hitting on the Mario right there with Toad. But yeah, I mean, for him, he just seems like a little bit more of a badass. So I think maybe he'll get a bit of a rename, because she says, wait right here. We don't see what happens after that. But I think he might get a little bit of a rebranding, a renaming. So I'll be curious to see what his new name looks like or hears for his sake. we get another scene again, another powerful scene that has another connect the dot, where Toad leads Magra and Baba to a home or a hut there, where she hears Tamakti Jun, and again she says, "I'm hearing the voice of a dead man," and he says, "You'll feel the voice instead." And then so she puts her hand on his face, and Baba Voss is like, "All right, yeah." But they're all in agreement there. They want to depose or kill the queen, and we learned that Magra has more than one plan, going on here, and I think that's wise. So you got to give Magra some credit there, because one plan wouldn't be enough, knowing that her sister Sibith probably has a couple plans of her own. So it'll be very interesting. But again, we learned that what Tamaki says is there's not enough time. We need more time, but what we've got is going to have to make do at some point. But we know that the soldiers are loyal to Harlan. Tamaki is kind of recruiting his own, which would be witchfinders. People like Toad that were loyal to him. So again, we're going to start to see who's loyal to whom for the next 3 episodes, and probably going into season 3. An interesting conversation too, and about the idea of that people would still destroy the world with or without sight. Like, that's a very interesting conversation, and that it's true to our own lives, that we've read in our own history and still deal with to this very day. And really what it boils down to, and it kind of, again, what we can see in this season or this show, is that we just need good leaders, and good leaders will inevitably try to make their people prosperous. But we know firsthand that Queen Cain is not a good leader, and that her sister would most likely do a better job, but she can't because her sister's in the way. And as Paris and Magra are having this conversation, right, it's sort of kind of becoming more realistic, or rather, Magra is coming to a realization that she's understanding that her right to the throne. And again, there's the sibling rivalry, but I think Magra understands now that she's doing this to protect her father's people as well, and her father being a better ruler and a better leader, and that she wants to do right by her father. And I do think that Magra would make for a much better leader. Again, we'll see how that all unfolds. Maybe by the end of the show itself, she'll have become queen, and maybe things will be at an end. But we'll see. I really like the shot in the forest, the scene with Baba and Kofun, sitting down, and they're kind of just looking on with the trees, and it's all white from the snow. We have the scene with the wolf that comes up, and Kofun's startled, but Baba Voss like, yeah, I heard him, and he was bloody, but then he goes, just be still, even the absence of sound is telling. And I thought that was a really cool line, part of dialogue. And again, we get the wolves that howl, and then the one wolf runs back to its pack. So I think there's a lesson to be learned there, that Baba Voss was trying to teach his son to be still, be in the moment, to be silent. And sometimes things just happen, like a wolf going off and it's wild, but to find its own from the pack and to go back to the pack, maybe that's something where Kofun has come back to the pack of his own with his family. The emotional scene that we get towards the end, where Harlan gets a message from the riders that are outside, and he's feeling around. You can kind of see he's startled, because he knows what he knows which horse this came from, and finds out it. I kind of had a feeling too when he starts to panic, and he goes, "I know this." I can't think of the darn word, but it's his brother. His brother's dead, beheaded, and we get in the previous episode where Magra and Harlan tell his brother Kerrigan to go out on a mission to the Dravantians and try and break out Haniwa, unknowing that, as we know as viewers, that Haniwa's on her way here right now to Pensa, and it was a suicide mission. You know, I think most of us probably knew that as well. And, you know, a couple of questions I have, you know, for myself and the show and for, you know, the viewers out there, you know, do you think this changes things for Harlan? Will he want to go to war? Will he want the Travantians to pay, or will he hold this against, you know, Princess Magra, his wife, or maybe the queen? I wonder what sort of alterations and Harlan will have now after this. And the last scene of the episode, which I kind of thought was a little, I was surprised that Apple TV Plus decided to show it, because it's pretty risque, I guess, to a certain extent. And we sort of knew this was going to happen up until a couple episodes ago. The seduction scene between Sibith and Kofun. So we get another incestual moment here on a TV show, much like Game of Thrones. We've got the aunt and the nephew, you know, having a little bit of a second base run there. A little uncomfortable, I guess, to a certain extent. You know, again, I was almost like, this is really happening. She's just kind of giving him a little hand job there. You could see the motion plain and clear, and I'm like, wow, okay. Well, you know what she's trying to do, and then it ends. So what do you guys think of this episode? Do you guys think, again, Harlan's going to change his mind about going to war because of what happened to his brother? Is he mad at Magra? You know, will he help, you know, team up against Queen Kane? And again, you know, where the loyalty is going to fall on each other's sides. Do you think we'll see more than one episode of War this season with the last three remaining episodes? Leave your comments and thoughts below. I'd love to have a conversation about the season thus far and what we'll get in the last 3 episodes. So if you're new here to the channel, go ahead and give us a like on this video if you did like it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out and helps grow the channel. And hit that bell for all of our future notifications and all the different kind of content we are releasing. Until next time, guys, see you guys on the next video. This is Nick. Peace out.